Angel Reese. I get the sense that she has done this thinking it's going to do something I don't believe it's going to do. In fact, I know it's not going to do that. I have a suspicion that Angel Reese believed she trademarked her name, her actual damn name, and it would prevent people like me probably from making videos about her, talking about her. Well, I don't provide a good or a service. All right. So, in other words, I'm not printing up t-shirts going Angel Reese on it.
Angel Reese just trademarked her own name. The WNBA is buzzing, and she's acting like this puts her on the same level as, like, business moguls. Like, she's building a whole empire. But here's the thing. There's a major problem with that thinking. Trademarking your name doesn't automatically make you Caitlin Clark. Clark built actual brand value through insane performance and being super marketable. Reese might have the official paperwork, but she doesn't have the real influence, the kind that actually matters. So, does trademarking your name really protect your brand? Or is it just a publicity stunt that doesn't actually change how much you're worth? Angel Reese recently filed all the paperwork with the United States Patent and Trademark Office to officially trademark her name. The whole filing was done through Angel Reese LLC, which is a limited liability company she owns in Maryland, her home state. Now, on the surface, this looks like a smart business move. Protecting your name and your brand is something that successful athletes and entertainers do all the time, but there's just something about this situation that feels different, and not in a good way.
Can't do that. But it does not stop people from reporting on news, etc. Personal commentary. And that's all this is. I get on here, hit record, and you guys watch me just talk. This is interesting. I'm still trying to figure out the guy that actually created the me bounds, which, if I'm not going crazy, she actually acknowledged somebody else come up with that. Well, then how does it keep them from winding back around and getting it back? You know, I found that rather interesting. I'm sure somebody just was like, it's not worth their...
The trademark filing was posted on social media by a bunch of legal analysts, and the reactions were immediate, and honestly mostly sarcastic. People started asking questions like, wait, can I trademark my name too? And there were a bunch of jokes about whether this means nobody can even talk about her anymore. That confusion really shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what trademarks actually do, and there's a pretty good chance that Reese herself doesn't fully understand the limitations of what she just filed for, either.
Angel Reese trademarks her name. Previously trademarked me Brown's phrase. Oh, never go full... Simple Jack. After previously filing trademark to the phrase, quote, me bounds, Chicago Sky star Angel Reese has officially trademarked her name as well.
Here's the reality.
Okay, so here's the reality of how trademarks actually work. When you trademark a name, you're protecting it in specific commercial contexts related to goods and services. Basically, that means other people can't use your name to sell products or offer services in a way that would confuse customers about who's really behind those products or services. So, like, nobody can start printing Angel Reese t-shirts and selling them without getting her permission. Nobody can open Angel Reese's basketball camp without her saying it's okay. And nobody can create Angel Reese branded merchandise and profit off her name recognition. But here's what a trademark doesn't do. It does not stop people from talking about you. It doesn't stop news outlets from reporting on you. And it definitely doesn't prohibit commentary, criticism, or even just regular discussion. Free speech protections are way stronger than any trademark protections, and for a good reason. Can you imagine if athletes could trademark their names and then prevent anyone from even mentioning them? Journalism and commentary would just be impossible. Sports media would just cease to exist. That's just not how any of this works. The suspicion among a lot of people, and honestly myself included, is that Reese might have thought trademarking her name would somehow limit what people can say about her. Maybe she thought it would prevent critics from making videos or writing articles. Maybe she thought it would give her some kind of legal leverage over people who talk about her in ways she doesn't like. If that was her thinking, she's gonna be pretty disappointed when she realizes that's not what trademark protection actually provides.
Trademark was filed by Angel Reese LLC, which is a limited liability company owned by Reese in her home state of Maryland. Good for her, all right. Reese has been busy on the trademark front this year, and it started with, quote, me bounds, which was a phrase jokingly coined on social media due to Reese's propensity for grabbing her own offensive rebound.
And get this trademark filing came right after Reese previously trademarked the phrase me bounds. Yeah, I know, right? Which is basically internet slang that came from social media, straight up making fun of her tendency to grab her own offensive rebound. Some random person online coined the term as a joke about how many of Reese's rebounds come from her own missed shots instead of, actual defensive boards. But instead of being embarrassed by the mockery, Reese just straight up embraced it and decided to monetize it by filing for trademark protection.
Whoever came up with the me bounds thing, y'all ate that up, because rebounds, me bounds, key bounds, anything that comes off that board, it's mine. It's mine. And a brand, that's 6 figures right there. Whoever came up with that, the trolling, I love when y'all do it, because like the ideas be good. Like when y'all have to alter my face because I'm cute. All right, whatever. Like that doesn't get me. But like when y'all came up with me bounds. Because statistically, all the rebounds that I get aren't always just mine. They're like the defenses too, or somebody else's on my team. But when y'all came up with rebounds, y'all ate one little thing. Jenny, we're working. We're gonna work with that. But yeah, happy game day.
We're in a TikTok video explaining the me bounds trademark, Reese said. Whoever came up with the me bounds thing, y'all ate, cause me bounds rebounds. Anything that comes off that board, it's mine. That's 6 figures right there. I love when y'all troll because the ideas be good. She seemed genuinely proud of turning internet mockery into a potential revenue stream, which hey, that's one way to handle criticism, I guess. Though it's worth pointing out that she's trying to profit from a term that someone else created to make fun of her statistics. So the legal question there is actually pretty interesting. If someone else actually coined the phrase me bounds, how does Reese get to trademark it and prevent the original creator from using it? The answer is probably just that whoever created it didn't think it was worth the legal hassle to fight over. Trademark disputes are expensive and super time-consuming. Most random internet users who just make up a funny phrase aren't going to hire lawyers to battle a professional athlete with actual resources. So Reese probably just got away with claiming something that wasn't originally hers, which is pretty ironic when you think about it, given that the whole phrase is about her claiming rebounds that arguably aren't hers either. Now let's talk about why this whole situation is fundamentally different from what Caitlin Clark has built. Clark didn't need to trademark her name to create brand value. Her brand value comes from her performance, her marketability, her appeal to fans across pretty much all demographics, and her ability to generate revenue for everyone around her. Companies want to associate with Clark because she moves the needle. Her signature shoe deal with Nike happened because Nike believes she'll sell products. Her endorsements keep growing because brands see a real ROI when they partner with her. Reese, on the other hand, is trying to manufacture brand value through legal paperwork rather than, actual market demand. Trademarking your name doesn't make you more marketable. It doesn't make companies suddenly want to work with you. It doesn't increase your fan base or your cultural influence. It just means you've filed some forms with the government. The actual work of building a brand, creating value, and becoming someone that consumers and companies actually care about, that's completely separate from trademark filing. Clark's brand power is organic. People want to watch her play. They buy tickets to her games. They tune in when she's on television. They purchase merchandise with her name on it without anyone having to force them to. That's genuine market demand. Reese has fans too, obviously, but her appeal is nowhere near Clark's level. The attendance numbers prove it. The viewership numbers prove it. The social media engagement proves it. Clark drives interest in ways that Reese simply doesn't, and no amount of trademark filings will change that fundamental reality. There's also the issue of what you're actually trademarking and whether there's real commercial value behind it. Clark could trademark her name tomorrow and immediately have dozens of companies lining up to license it for products. Reese trademarks her name and then what? Who's clamoring for Angel Reese branded products? What's the actual market demand? Trademarking something only matters if people want to buy what you're selling, and it's just not clear that consumer demand exists at the level that Reese seems to think it does. The comparison to Michael Jordan is pretty inevitable when you're talking about athletes trademarking their names and building brands. Jordan didn't become a global icon because he filed trademark paperwork. He became an icon because he was the best player in the world, won 6 championships, and had a personality and style that just transcended basketball. The trademark protection came after he'd already built undeniable value. He was protecting something that already existed and was already valuable. Reese is trying to create value through the act of protection itself, which is completely backwards. Jordan's brand is worth billions because people associate his name with excellence, winning, and cultural significance. When you see the Jumpman logo, you think of greatness. When you hear Michael Jordan, you think of the greatest basketball player ever. That association wasn't manufactured through legal filings, it was earned through performance and cultural impact. Reese just hasn't earned that kind of association. When people hear Angel Reese, they think of someone who got a lot of attention for reasons that had more to do with her rivalry with Caitlin Clark than her own individual excellence. The timing of this trademark filing is also pretty interesting. It comes at a moment when Reese's relevance is, let's be honest, questionable. She's dealing with injury issues. She hasn't committed to playing in the unrivaled league that a lot of other stars are joining. Her team, the Chicago Sky, had a pretty disappointing season. She's not in the conversation for major awards or recognition, so trademarking her name right now feels like a desperate attempt to stay relevant and create the appearance of business savvy when the actual on-court product isn't generating the attention she wants. There's a pattern with Reese where she seems way more focused on the appearance of success than, actual success. She's constantly posting about business moves, brand building, and monetization strategies on social media. But when you look at the actual results, measurable outcomes, concrete achievements, it's just not nearly as impressive as the social media presence suggests. Trademarking your name is just another example of it. Looks like a boss move when you announce it online, but does it actually accomplish anything meaningful? Does it generate revenue? Does it increase your market value? Probably not. The people commenting on the trademark filing with confusion and, let's be real, mockery are responding pretty appropriately. The whole thing really does feel like someone who doesn't fully understand how business and branding work, trying to imitate what they think successful people do. Successful athletes trademark their names after they've built value worth protecting. Reese is trademarking her name and hoping that it somehow creates value that doesn't currently exist. That's not how it works, and the market will prove that pretty quickly. Compare this to how Clark has handled her business opportunities. She's not out here making announcements about trademark filings. She's not constantly posting about business moves. She just signs deals with major companies, shows up in massive advertising campaigns, and lets the actual work speak for itself. That's the difference between someone who has real market value and someone who's trying to manufacture the appearance of it. Clark doesn't need to tell everyone she's building a brand, because everyone can already see it. Reese has to announce every legal filing, because without those announcements, nobody would know anything business-related was happening. The meaty bounds situation is particularly embarrassing when you really think about it. Reese is literally trying to monetize a phrase that was created to mock her statistical padding. She's admitting that a lot of her rebounds come from her own missed shots, acknowledging that critics have a point, and then trying to make money from that criticism. That's either brilliant self-awareness and thick skin, or it's a complete lack of understanding about why the mockery exists in the first place. I'm honestly leaning toward the latter. Real brand building is about creating positive associations and genuine value. It's about making people want to be connected to you and what you represent. It's about delivering something that consumers or partners find valuable enough to pay for. Paperwork doesn't do that. Trademark filings don't do that. Only actual performance, personality, and cultural impact do that. Reese can file all the trademarks she wants, but until she builds genuine market demand for her brand, those filings are just expensive paperwork that doesn't accomplish much. The comments from people asking if they can trademark their names, too, reveal how little the average person understands about this whole process. Yeah, technically anyone can file for trademark protection, but that protection is only valuable if you're actually using the name in commerce. And if there's actual value worth protecting, random people trademarking their names accomplishes absolutely nothing because nobody's trying to profit from their names. There's no market confusion to prevent Reese trademarking her name, makes slightly more sense because she's a public figure. But even then, the actual commercial value is honestly pretty questionable. What Reese should really be focusing on is building actual brand value through performance and personality. Win more games. Improve your statistics in ways that don't require a bunch of caveats about offensive rebounds. Build genuine connections with fans. Create content that people actually want to consume. Partner with brands in authentic ways that make sense. Those activities build real value that trademark protection can then protect. But protecting something that doesn't have value in the first place is just pointless. And that's the situation Reese finds herself in, whether she realizes it or not. The fundamental problem with Reese's whole approach is that she's trying to skip steps. She wants the payoff of being a global brand without doing the work of actually becoming one. She sees players like Caitlin Clark or Aja Wilson getting major deals and recognition, and she wants that same level of success. But she's just not willing to acknowledge that those players earned their brand value through consistent excellence, broad appeal, and genuine cultural impact. You can't shortcut your way to that kind of success with trademark filings and social media announcements. Let's talk about what actually makes an athlete's brand valuable in the commercial marketplace. First, you need performance that stands out. You need to be elite at your sport in ways that are undeniable and don't require a ton of explanation or context. Clark's shooting ability is elite. Her court vision is elite. Her ability to take over games is elite. Those skills translate to highlights that get shared millions of times and moments that casual fans actually remember. Reese's rebounding numbers are impressive on paper, but they require context and explanation. Casual fans just aren't watching Angel Reese highlights the way they watch Clark highlights. Second, you need broad demographic appeal. Brands want athletes who can reach multiple audience segments. Clark appeals to young girls who play basketball, middle-aged women who never played but love her story, men who appreciate elite skill regardless of gender, and casual sports fans who just enjoy watching someone who's obviously special. That's broad appeal. That translates to commercial value. Reese's appeal is much narrower. She has a devoted fan base, but it's not nearly as diverse or widespread, and that limits her commercial potential, regardless of how many trademarks she files. Third, you need a personality and a story that people connect with emotionally. People love Clark's humble beginnings, her small-town roots, her family's sacrifice to support her dreams, and her gracious handling of sudden fame. That's a story people root for. Reese's story is, let's be honest, less compelling to mainstream audiences. Her beef with Clark became her defining characteristic, and being known primarily for your rivalry with someone more popular than you is just not a great foundation for individual brand building. You become a supporting character in someone else's story rather than the protagonist of your own. Fourth, you need a proven ability to move the needle commercially. When Clark plays, attendance goes up. When her games are televised, ratings go up. When she's featured in marketing, engagement goes up. These are measurable impacts that brands and partners care about deeply. Reese hasn't demonstrated that same ability to drive commercial outcomes. Her games don't generate the same attendance bumps. Her presence doesn't drive the same viewership increases. Without that proven track record of commercial impact, her brand value is limited, regardless of legal protection. Angel Reese, trademarking her name, doesn't make her a brand powerhouse. It just means she filed paperwork that won't stop anyone from talking about her or change her actual market value. Caitlin Clark built real brand power through performance, an appeal that companies pay millions for. Reese is trying to skip the hard work and manufacture value through legal filings. That's just not how this works. The market determines brand value, not trademark offices. And until Reese understands that difference, she'll keep making moves that generate mockery instead of respect. Drop a like and subscribe for more reality checks on WNBA business moves.